But you look at some of the pits nowadays, and there's a whole no karate in the pit, mentality. But like you look at, I've seen videos on, because we follow, Instagram guys on metal, and it's like guys are throwing elbows and karate kicks and you're like, what are you doing? You're a psychopath that has found a pathway to go punch somebody in the face and then get away with it. Like, relax, bro.
And actually.
All right, I'm here with my buddy Jeff Petty.
Cheers.
Metal Age Men. Cheers.
Pints and Prog.
Pints and Prog, episode 3. We've already named the episode beforehand, so we're kind of stuck, dude.
We're really getting ahead of ourselves.
All right, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We think we're actually really cool now that we're on episode 3. But all right, so Jeff, the last 2 episodes, we started the same way.
Yes.
What did you listen to on the way here? So I'll let you go first.
All right, so because I knew we were going to be talking about shows, I had to go Knocked Loose. And I didn't just go Knocked Loose. I went first album Knocked Loose, which is Laugh Tracks.
Okay.
So that's got Counting Worms on it.
Counting Worms,
which will be rereferenced later.
Yeah, okay.
In our lyrics.
Oh, because they're great?
Because they're hilarious. Okay. I listened literally, I just listened to Laugh Tracks all the way in.
Okay. Yeah.
So Billy No Mates, Blood for Blood, Counting Worms.
Nice.
I love that album.
Did you think about it before you got in your car, what you were going to choose? Okay.
100%.
Because I'm getting in my car going, oh, crap, I'm supposed to listen to songs. And so I'm like, okay, what do I... And so everybody's a recency bias. Like, you think you listened to recently, like, I'm going to go back to that.
Yes.
What can I think of?
Yes.
So I mentioned earlier Black Label by Lamb of God. And then I listened to Is Survived by Boundaries.
Dude, that song destroys.
And it's Destroys. And it's going to come up later in my lyrics as well.
Nice.
But I only have about a 10-minute commute, so I got literally 2 songs in on the way here.
I drove, it's 20 minutes. No Knocked Loose song is longer than 2.5 minutes. Yeah. I think I listened to 9 songs.
Okay. 2.5 albums on the way here.
Actually, I listened to Laugh Tracks, but I also listened to the EP too. So I listened to Everything Is Quiet Now and Deep in the Willow, which was absolutely brilliant.
Well, you can obviously see I am in an agreement with the so let's go back to the shirts. Like, so what was the reason for the shirt?
I went old school with Pantera. Yeah. We obviously got to see them with Metallica, which was
killer,
beyond great. Mm-hmm. The 2 shows we've seen this year, which have both been fantastic, the Pantera Metallica thing, and then Knocked Loose, and there was other bands on the Knocked Loose bill, but we're only going to focus on the band we love, which is Knocked Loose.
Actually there's another band I love on that bill.
That's true. Right.
So like I'll go with my shirt and then we'll go into the concert. So this was purchased at said concert, said reference concert.
I have the same shirt.
Although the funny thing is I don't know how it shows up on camera here, but it's greenish. When we saw it in the dark on the concert, it looked gray. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, this is green and pink. But honestly,
dig it.
Refreshing change of pace from the black and white and 100%. Skulls on the sleeves. And I'm like, I can wear this somewhere and not be totally embarrassed.
Now the footnote to that is I was going to wear mine long sleeve Knocked Loose, which has stuff all down the sleeves, has lyrics. The back has this huge
what does it say on the back?
On the back it says I was visited by death again. Yeah. Which is just killer. Yeah. Right? And people you see wearing it think you have problems. Yeah. But no, their shirts are great. So and that's a great shirt.
And what does it say on the back? I can't even remember.
What does it say? It's got all the lyrics for both of the EP songs.
Okay. Yeah. And it says, I think it says deep. What does it say?
It says, "Are you washed in the blood?"
Yeah. Are you washed in the blood? Yeah.
Which is
what's funny because
are you washed?
Washed. It's washed,
yes.
not watch.
That's the way they say it in Kentucky.
I posted my Spotify Wrapped on LinkedIn the other day because it was like, and it's like everybody posts it, and I even was like, nobody cares about your Spotify Wrapped. Here's mine.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And what it was like my top 3 of the top 5 songs were "Thy Art Is Murder," and one of them was like "Killing Season," and some dude was like, "Dude,
are you okay?
Murder is very apparently a theme in your brain," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I probably didn't think about that before I posted it." But everything is so ridiculous, and we'll get into the lyrics here in a minute. But so concerts, right?
Yes.
You referenced them a moment ago. Let's do Pantera Metallica first. Let's talk about that show. Yeah. Where was it? All that good stuff.
So Cowboy Stadium.
Yep.
Obviously. Metallica did 2 nights, which you went to the first night. I went
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, I went both nights. So it was a Friday, Sunday thing, no repeat playlist. Which,
that's crazy.
I mean, to get
both Pantera and Metallica didn't repeat.
Only Pantera was on Friday night. Five Finger Death Punch was Sunday night, which I had zero interest in. So not to hate on Five Finger, but that's not my jam. So the openers I could care less about on Sunday night, but obviously I I can make a pretty compelling argument. I was more excited to see Pantera than I was Metallica.
Well, I've told you that already. That was the case.
Like
for
we
me.
got there early. We even saw Mammoth, Van Halen's kid, a little bit of his set, which wasn't terrible.
What is like Wolf Van Halen or
Wolfgang.
Okay.
So, but the Pantera set. Now, my only knock, and you tell me if you agree.
Okay.
The venue was so big.
Yeah.
You lose a little bit. Metallica can fill it.
Yeah.
Like sound wise. Pantera, they did, but I want to see them at like a 10,000 seat.
Yeah.
venue.
I think, what was it? So I read the stats, and, apparently there was close to 100,000 people.
Apparently
something.
they set attendance records for the show.
Yeah.
They've been setting them everywhere.
Well, and it's funny, like at my company, there's a lot of Taylor Swift fans. And so I actually sent in like in our internal Slack thread, I'm like, yeah, because there was an article that Pantera and Metallica pulded in more fans than Taylor Swift. And I'm like, see guys? Yeah.
I told my daughter the same thing.
Yeah. But it was like, but apparently the argument was with Taylor Swift cut off, a third of the stadium for act or whatever. Right. Okay. But still, I mean, they filled the stadium. I'm in agreement with you, but what I will say is the novelty of seeing Pantera, because it was the first time I've seen Pantera. Believe it or not.
The second time I'd seen him.
I'd never seen him before.
Yeah.
And that was when we'll get into like bands you missed or bands you wish you'd seen.
Yes.
I went there specifically because I had never seen Pantera before.
100%.
Which is crazy because the only band sticker I've ever had on any car in my life is a Pantera sticker in high school.
Yes.
So like just in the fact, obviously there's the dispute. Is it really Pantera? Is it not? But that was why I went.
And the answer is, I fall in the bucket of, no, it's not Pantera. It's not the four guys.
Yeah, it's not the four.
They played all the Pantera songs. Yeah. They were all rippers. Phil sounded fantastic.
He actually sounded a lot better than I anticipated.
I mean, I thought
he went through a phase where his voice kind of
was stripped out.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to the Down Live album, you know.
Yeah.
He sounded great. Charlie on drums from Anthrax sounded great. Yeah. Obviously, Zakk Wylde, who I'm a big fan of. I love Black Label Society. I loved him in Ozzy. Mm-hmm. His riffage of Dime stuff was pretty spot on.
I think, it was almost like, hey, I'm doing an homage to them, but like it was still.
It was
and
filthy.
You want my one critique of the concert?
Yeah, go.
Why was Phil barefoot? I don't understand why he was barefoot. And he was barefoot like every single time. Well, the other critique was that the round stage is cool for the novelty of it, and I understand because you're in this giant stadium.
Yes.
But then you're never always playing directly to the fans, right?
And
but why was he barefoot? Do you know? Is there a story there?
I have no idea. And it's funny. Before we went and saw the show, they had played at, I think, the Meadowlands, like maybe a week before or 2 weeks before. I was so hyped up the night before we went and saw the show, I had to watch their set at the Meadowlands. My first question as I'm watching this is, why is Phil barefoot?
That's funny.
He's going to catch a splinter, man. Like, this is not good. But I don't know. I think the guy's just, he's always wearing his Housecore record shirt. That's his record label, and the cutoff sleeves, and probably shouldn't be wearing cutoff sleeves. He's a 50-some-year-old.
Yeah, he's 50. He's got a little bit of a belly. He kind of waddles around
a little
stage.
Bit, but he sounded
great, dude. He belted out everything that you wanted him. It sounded
they sang
awesome.
They sang Effing Hostile, which is a bone-crushing song.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of screaming. And he pulled it off. I was absolutely impressed with how great he's.
Well, the only thing he doesn't hit anymore is those like high falsettos.
Super high.
Yeah.
But he can't do anything much off Cowboys from Hell. He can sing Cowboys from Hell.
Thoughts on? So I'm not as big a Metallica fan as you, but thoughts on Metallica, their performance, all that stuff.
Metallica is so dialed.
Yeah.
Those guys come out, they do Long Way to the Top from AC/DC. As soon as that starts, Metallica's coming. Mm-hmm. They do Ecstasy of Gold, which is from the Outlaw Josie Wales. It's the clip that's the show. The guys walking through the graveyard. Brilliant movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, you said that in the concert, and I'm like, I didn't realize that, like the whistling. Or whatever that is. Yeah. I'm like, that's what that's from? I didn't even know that was what that was from.
And I've got a lot of really fun childhood memories of Clint Eastwood movies because of my dad, who passed away years ago. So when that starts, like I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it. Because it was just like, because it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think, what did they open with? Because I know they played
You're
Harvester
better
of Sorrow.
At set lists than I am.
I know they played Harvester. Maybe I'll Google it while we're sitting here. I know that they opened up with the first 3 songs were amazing. And I meant to do this well before we were sitting in front of a mic.
It's all good.
But let me look here.
Well, I got a confession. my notes in my iPhone. I must have somehow erased them. And I'm looking and going, holy crap, where is the notes for the order? So I'm going to have to rely on your printed piece of paper, Jeff, for this one.
I'm here to help.
Yeah.
I'm a giver.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so here.
What do they start with?
So they come out, Creeping Death, Harvester of Sorrow, Leper Messiah.
Yeah, yeah.
You could stop playing at that point. like those are 3 of my favorite Metallica songs. Creeping Death.
So confession too, like crushing. I love Metallica. I didn't get because of when I grew up.
Yeah.
In the peak of the Black Album.
Yeah.
When it came out, that was my introduction to Metallica. I didn't go back like deep into their catalog. I mean, I love the typical songs, the One and Master of Puppets,
Greatness.
and the great songs that we all agree are the great Metallica songs. But like, I don't watch Metallica and go, oh my God, it's Metallica.
Yeah, I do.
But what I But what I appreciate about them, and I think James Hetfield said he was 60 on like stage.
Yeah.
They sound phenomenal at 60. Like you would never guess those guys. They haven't lost a step.
No.
They're just as tight. I don't love the new stuff as I think as much as
it's not, and nobody does.
But I look and go, well, like Metallica is basically one of the top echelon metal bands that has set a precedent. That even today, like they're selling T-shirts to 13-year-old girls at like Gap. You know, like it's crazy how much influence they've had on music.
If you're doing a Rushmore.
Yeah,
of metal or of hard rock or whatever you want to call it. Zeppelin, Sabbath, Metallica.
Yeah.
And then you can debate the 4th band on what depending on your opinion, but there's no denying. I mean, these guys go out, they're doing 2 nights a week. They're doing the Friday Sunday thing kind of across the world.
Yep.
I think I just read they're getting ready to play in like Saudi Arabia for the first time.
That's awesome.
You know, and it's like they can flex so hard.
Yeah.
Like we saw them I saw him at Cowboy Stadium a few years ago. Different setup, end of the place as opposed to in the round. I like that setup better, back to your point earlier. But like in the round, like they're playing and you're going like they hit every album over 2 nights. I mean, they played, Leper Messiah, that's deep cut Metallica.
Yeah.
Like you got to know, you got to be into the band, right? The next night they played Battery, which is off the same album, Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
And for me, like you talk about when you caught Metallica, Black Album, I caught them at And Justice for All.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's whenever
which was the album immediately
Black
preceding.
Album.
Yeah.
And then I think I've told this story before, but a really good friend of mine at Baylor was a diehard Metallica guy.
Yeah.
So when I get to Baylor, I'm like, man, Metallica, they're great. And Justice for All. He's like, have you listened to Master of Puppets and Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning?
Yeah.
No, not really. And then I became addicted to them.
Yeah.
And so that first 4 album set, which I would put against any 4 albums of any metal band ever in the history of anything, any genre, those are 4 perfect albums.
Yeah. Well, and then I go back and listen to them now. They still stand up.
Oh,
the quality of the recordings. I mean, you can play it today and it doesn't immediately go, oh, that was recorded in the 80s, right? Like it was masterful performance production, all that
You can
stuff.
tell that those guys pay very close attention to the sound quality, to the only album that they didn't was the album Saint Anger, which is just a
well, I was going to say the only one that I've heard specific
album.
criticism about is And Justice for All because Newsted's bass was turned
down. No bass.
So I listened to the And Newsted for All or And Justice for Newsted or whatever it is on YouTube,
which is great,
which is so funny. Yeah, some guy went back and re-recorded the whole thing just to do the bass.
But you think about it, it's like I'm sitting there watching them. I mean, while we're at the show Friday night, and I go back Sunday night, and I'm like, okay, that's 5 hours. Basically, of Metallica live.
Yeah.
I could have listened to 10.
Which show was better? Friday or Sunday?
Friday, only because Pantera opened.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just to get
because I was standing next to you.
Of course, and to get an hour of Pantera. Yeah. I mean, just live and just like you said, like they haven't been a band for what 20 some years.
I know, man.
So like.
Well, I was basically resigned to the fact I would never get to see Pantera. We're going to touch on bands you wish you'd seen and maybe never get to see.
Yeah.
They were one I was able to fortunately check off that sort of bucket list.
100%.
And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad. So funny thing, one of the most memorable moments of that concert, dad and a mom, guy looked probably about our age, maybe a little older, and a son. Mm-hmm. So son, they look clean cut. The dad looked like he was well-to-do. The mom was a pretty lady. The kid was probably 16.
Yeah.
Cut off shirt, ripping every single lyric.
Every
he
word.
And Dad were, and I'm like, they were like 3 or 4 rows ahead of us, and I'm like, dude, I appreciate that so much because.
Well, you had that with your dad.
Well, I had that. I remember my dad took us to Family Values,
which is greatness.
Me and another couple buddies. So that was Ice Cube and Limp Bizkit and Korn, and I'm pretty sure that's where my dad heard me say the F word the first time in a couple lyrics. Because I was like 14 or 15. But awesome. I remember that going, oh. Dude, I get to go to a concert and I get to go see Korn and my dad's going to be there. And so I looked at that and go, dude, that Dad just passed the baton. And the fact that the kid, 16 years old, wasn't even born when Pantera was popular, is singing lyrics to every single song. I'm like, yes.
Well, there was the two, even in front of them, there were the 2 women.
Oh yeah,
like Pantera, they were in.
Yeah,
like they were living their best 1998 lives.
Yeah.
And it was just that, and that's what makes like Metallica is so they've officially crossed into that pantheon of little kids like them.
Yeah,
old people like them. Like I'm 51, you're 41. 41 now.
Yeah.
So, like you caught them at a different time than I did. Mm-hmm. There's kids that are now catching them with like Death Magnetic and Lux Eterna, the most recent albums and things like that. And or 72 Seasons, I should say. Lux Eterna is a song. But if you catch them now, you can still backtrack.
Well, that's the beauty of Spotify or Apple, man. It's like, because it exists in streaming, because all the algorithms and recommendations, like it's going to be introduced to continually for generations and generations, and they're still going to love it, which is so freaking cool.
So, and then so the juxtaposition of Metallica, Pantera, Cowboy Stadium to Knocked Loose at the Bomb Factory, which 5,000 people.
What is it called, the Factory now?
I think it's called the Factory.
Yeah, that's what, like, because we were talking about old Bomb Factory and they renamed
it. And who was it? It was Knocked Loose. It was Alpha Wolf.
Which was pretty
awesome.
sick.
I am now officially an Alpha Wolf fan.
I know, I remember talking to you about that. I'm like, hey.
After the Burial.
So after the Burial, Alpha Wolf and the Knocked Loose and this, so the order was.
And then Motionless in White.
Yeah, and then we were like.
We left.
After Alpha Wolf opened. Mm-hmm. Probably should, in most concerts shouldn't be an opener. After the Burial came on, and I feel like they were probably about equal in terms of their reception.
Yes.
But the thing that we noticed about that show is we showed up early. It was freaking packed. Like you go to some shows and it's like people trickle in for the first couple bands because they're just there to see the headliner.
Yes.
Everybody was there.
So that was doors at 5, show at 6.
Yeah. So like
on
early,
a Sunday.
On a Sunday. Early. Yeah.
We get in line at 5:30, 5:45 because we're the weirdos. They're going to get there early thinking we're the weirdos.
Yeah. No, everybody was there.
Everybody.
Line around the corner and all that stuff.
Like Alpha Wolf comes on and I think you had heard of him.
Yeah, because there's that song that I am the wolf. Yeah.
Like, and I had only heard it. Seeing those guys live.
Yeah.
They destroyed.
And then I kept like priming you for After the Burial, and I think Jared was a good fan of them as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to check these guys out.
Great.
Like, just see them live. And even like when you don't know the songs, I'm curious because you don't know the songs. Is it hard to like catch them the first time?
I can vibe on it.
Okay.
Like Alpha Wolf. I don't know many other songs, but the attitude and the ethos of those guys and the fact that like he was talking smack to the
security guards.
The security guys and like using words that we won't use here. But it was just like I just loved their entire thing. And then After the Burial, they almost come across as, we've been around a minute.
Yeah, they are, because I think they are a little bit more
They're a little bit older.
Yeah.
Like they've probably been around 20 years, I'm guessing.
Like that. Yeah.
And I think the people who were there with either their guitarist or singer died or there was some kind of death within that band.
Yeah, there was.
Right?
I can't remember exactly.
And so they come out and you can just tell those are guys that are been there, done that.
I would equate them to the road comic that is a headliner on certain small clubs.
Good way to put it.
He's been around 20 years. He's put in the effort, or he or she, the work. I've traveled the country.
Yep.
I'm a pro, but I just didn't quite get to there.
Didn't level up.
Yeah. And that's what After the Burial is.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Knocked Loose comes on.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna have our 5 minutes of Knocked Loose love,
which is required on this podcast.
The best part about Knocked Loose, not only did we get to see them at the Bomb Factory, I got to see them at Coachella.
That's right. Yeah.
So Coachella, which is EDM, DJs. Like,
do you like Coachella? Honestly, tell me about the concert.
I'm too old.
Okay, I
brought my kids. I brought my 2 oldest boys at the time, 24 and 18. They're in heaven.
Yeah. Okay.
Thought it was like the best thing ever. I think they were I think they just enjoyed the vibe of it.
Yeah.
ACL, which we go to every year, has a little bit of an older vibe.
Okay.
You bring your lawn chair, you plop down, you sip on a few, and you're good. Coachella is definitely like one of those like where like influencers and stuff are at.
Everybody's got their tripod set up.
I've missed my lane. I miss my. So the best part is Knocked Loose is this complete outlier in this festival. They don't play on like a main stage. They play like in this tinted thing. And there's actually, if you go online and Google about Knocked Loose Coachella, Billie Eilish.
I know her.
She was on the stage watching them from the side. Like all these people wanted to check out Knocked Loose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they come out and just blew the freaking doors off of
So what is it? Because
tinted.
she's not the only celebrity or musician I've heard that like got it. Who else was like famously... There's somebody not too long ago that like
I think there was
it Drake?
It might have been
there was some like, rapper or something's like not you have to check and it was like that's a weird recommendation. Yeah.
So seeing those guys, and obviously I was texting you during it because I was so giddily excited. My everybody I went with, nobody went with me.
Yeah.
I stood so this is a funny footnote to the story. I'm standing next to like a boyfriend girlfriend. They're probably, if I'm guessing, mid-20s.
Okay.
And you know how it is. You get in a venue, you're waiting for the show to start. You kind of start chatting. Hey, where are you from? Where are you this? Where are you that? And the guy's like, I love Knocked Loose. And the girl's like, I kind of like Knocked Loose. And it was kind of like your Metallica. It was kind of like the Metallica story. The lyric, they know every word.
Yeah.
The guy and the girl.
Yeah.
And they're sitting next to me, and they're just belting every word. Now, I do not know every Knocked Loose
I don't either.
word.
They're a band that you have to memorize the words because you can't understand. You know, like
I'll read the back of your shirt.
I try to go through and so what is God knows? Like I try to. I want to know every word to that song.
Yes.
Because you can't just pick them up and remember them because you can hear the words all the time.
Yes.
You literally have to memorize that song. So the fact that they knew every single word is crazy.
Every single word. So that was great. Got to see them. That was April. Okay. So then fast forward.
And by the way, that was when you told me a new song had come out, right?
And they played Deep in the Willow.
Deep in the Willow.
They played Deep in the Willow.
Whoa. So we keep thinking, new album's coming, right?
Which we're still waiting on.
Yeah,
so if Knocked Loose ever
watches
this
we're
podcast,
in December, 2nd of 2023? Yeah, so we're still waiting on the album.
Yeah, so we're going to continue to talk about Knocked Loose until they actually come up with the album.
Then when a new album comes out, we'll just dedicate a whole episode.
We'll just have them on. We'll get Brian Garris.
Yeah, we're big enough to have them on.
Of course. Yeah. But seeing them again, obviously, and we had seen them last year in Fort Worth.
Yeah, it was Fort Worth. Yeah, with the
Ridgely.
Yeah.
And they were great there.
Yeah.
The best part about this show is we had seats. So we were up in like the top deck, which was great.
Yeah.
Although we didn't sit down during
Well, we had the seats, but then it was that railing where you could stand up. So I'm like,
we were all
we were rocking. But then you could sit between bands and stuff like that.
They sound incredible live.
Yeah, they do.
For what they play, to sound that clean is actually impressive.
But that's why I think that's why they're as big as they are, because like they sound great on their recordings. You see them live, it's just so overwhelmingly heavy, but it's pure energy. It's still tight.
Yes.
Because of the energy that the audience gives back to them, it just like sort of reinforces it.
Big time.
So they're a live band. They are a band that you have to see live, even if you're casually into them. And then of course, like we said, Motionless and White, we all kind of said, meh.
Yeah.
They had that one song where they have Slaughterhouse where has the guy, what's his name?
Brian Garris. Yeah.
And then we heard it, but we were in
buying shirts.
Hilarious story about the buying the shirts though. We're all in that little snake line, whatever the cow, being shuttled through, and we go, oh, we're gonna get a Knocked Loose shirt, right? Some lady comes on a bullhorn and says, hey, if you're in line to get a Motionless and White shirt, you can come over here. And there was like 200 people and literally nobody moved. And she was like, hey, you can come right ahead to the front of the line if you want a Motionless and White shirt. And we're like, no, we're good.
Well, and the footnote to that also, too, is we get to the front of the line. There's a girl working in the merch line, and she's like, I'm like, yeah, I need a large of the green, and I need a long sleeve. And she goes, oh, like, we're kind of out of those. She goes, but I can run out to the van and get more. And she's like, I'm happy to do it because there's a bunch of people behind us. Now, that night, it's a drilling down rainstorm.
It was monsoon, dude.
Like, it's biblical, right? Like, there's two of everything walking outside. And we literally, the girl, like we're off to the side, like, I'm like waiting and people are coming up and buying merch. Girl comes in drenched.
Yeah.
Drenched.
Yeah.
But has a box full of Knocked Loose shirts. And I'm like, that even made me love them more.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, yeah, these guys are on the grind, man.
I bet the amount of merch they actually move is pretty crazy.
I bet you it's a ton.
Because I'm not joking. Maybe there was
they have good merch.
Maybe it wasn't 200, maybe it was 100, but I mean, like the line was all the way snake through the door. Where you go almost, do I even want to wait in this line? But no, I really do.
Yes.
But we probably waited half an hour or so. And then you had an extra 10 or 15 minutes where you're the front of the line waiting for that poor girl to come back. Yeah. And I'd literally just gotten my shirt and I'm like, Jeff, come on, dude. Like, do you sure you really want that one shirt? You know? Yeah. Like, yes, I do.
I was like, I'm not leaving until I get that shirt. Yeah. But it was those kind of moments. I mean, that's the thing you don't get when you go see Metallica at Cowboy Stadium.
True.
That's the established big box band.
Yeah, yeah.
Going to those, and Bomb Factory isn't really a club anymore, but it's kind of a club plus.
It's a middle of the road where it's like you get bigger-ish bands, but it's still intimate. I mean, even though we were up and then we were at the balcony ride, but we were front of the balcony. Yeah. It's like you're right on top of the band.
Like the Factory pulls bands that are either on the come up
or they come down.
And they don't get the guys that are at the top, right? Yeah. Because like Knock Loose's next step will be playing at Toyota.
Yeah.
Or maybe being an opener for somebody at whatever it's called now.
Well, depending on what happens in their next album, I bet that might be the explosion of Knock Loose,
Could potentially be.
Because the really album that really put them on the map is the EP.
Tearing the Fabric.
Tearing the Fabric, right? So like there wasn't enough for it to like explode them on the scene, but you and I both agree that's a perfect EP. It's literally perfect.
Flawless.
So I cannot wait, especially with the 2 new singles they release. Hopefully they will get their just desserts, you know.
You would hope so.
You would hope so. Yeah.
You would hope so.
Unless the album is just meh, which I can't imagine it being.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I think they want to stay in the lane they're in. Like they're not one of these. They're not
going to release acoustic like on MTV Unplugged next. So.
You know, they're not Chino who sings for the Deftones and then goes out and does an album with Crosses.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of mellow and moody and kind of Depeche Mode-y. Yeah. That is not what these guys are doing. Yeah. They are flag bearers for hardcore.
Yeah. I love it, dude.
And I absolutely love it.
Well, all right. So concerts, we don't really have anything on the agenda coming for 2024. Hopefully we'll find, we'll definitely find something. There hasn't been anything that risen to the level of like, oh, we have to go to that show.
No, the only one that is potentially out there that's coming, which is a legacy band, is AC/DC.
Okay.
I've never seen AC/DC live. I wouldn't mind seeing
them. Okay. Well, so the fact that you've never seen them.
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
Okay.
Not even remotely a fan.
Right.
I might go just for the novelty.
To me, that's like a holy crap, it's AC/DC.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but that's it. Like, they're one that'd be like back to checking the boxes with Pantera.
Yeah.
I've listened to AC/DC since that's the first album I ever bought, Back in Black.
Yeah.
3rd grade. That's how long they've been around.
Well, my daughter loved Thunder the other day. I played that.
Thunderstruck? Yeah.
Thunderstruck. Yeah. I'm confusing that with Thunder of Imagine Dragons, which she also likes. She's 6. So
yeah, right, of course. Yeah.
All right. So I don't have my notes on my phone, so I'm gonna have to rely on your paper. So what do we want to cut? What are we going to next?
So we can talk about, since we've been talking about bands, we can talk about
ones we didn't see.
We can talk about the bands we missed.
Okay.
We can talk about bands we've missed live.
Yeah. So I'll tell you my first one.
Yes.
Really disappointed I've never seen them live. Rage Against the Machine.
Me too. Same.
I've never seen them.
Me neither.
I don't know if I will ever get to see them, quite frankly. I mean, how long have they been not a band, right? I mean,
so they went back out last
They did
year?
a couple shows, right?
But then Zach broke his leg.
What? I didn't even know if I know that story.
Apparently I think it was literally jumping around stage and like he forgot he wasn't 20 something.
Yeah, he's got to be 50 something now.
Broke his leg. Yeah. And so they literally, because they were out with Run the Jewels, which is a rap group.
Yeah, I know Run the Jewels.
And I love Run the Jewels.
Because Zach has done that song is awesome. Whatever, I can't remember.
Close your eyes and count to. Yeah. So I was all geeked up, but the problem was because it's Rage Against the Machine and because they're just different dudes, they came through Texas, they played El Paso.
Of course.
And the reason they played El Paso, border town.
Yeah.
And it was to call attention to the immigration thing and the whole thing, which, hey, I can appreciate.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to see you guys in Dallas.
Like, hey, guys, could you play somewhere else?
Please. Yeah. No, I've seen Audioslave, which is Rage and Chris Cornell. Yeah. I've seen them twice.
Won't get to see them, obviously, either. Yeah.
Got to see them twice. And, like, seeing Tom Morello live is super cool. Mm-hmm. But Rage is that's one I haven't seen. I didn't even put that on my list.
Well, you didn't put that is like the first one that came to mind. And I actually, that is one that I don't believe I'll ever get to see. And I sort of accepted that that's the case.
Yep.
It's funny you say Audioslave. I never saw Soundgarden either.
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lollapalooza.
So I was telling you, you said 51, I'm 41. So like my peak, and we can get into whether we think 90s is the pinnacle of music or whatever. Sure. But of course, that was when all the bands we're referencing were at their peak as well.
Yes.
But I never saw Soundgarden either, which now that I just
surprises me.
Think about it in the moment, I'm like, dang, man.
Even festival-wise.
That was when the whole Black Hole Sun, and, you know, I can't believe I never saw. But so when you're a teenager, it's not like you're thinking about concerts all the time, because you'd have to have dad or mom take you to concerts.
Right.
So it's like, how many concerts can I ask dad to take me to?
Right.
But yeah, I never saw Soundgarden either. So like, all right, so I got another couple bands on my list. But who's
I mean, the biggest one for me is Nirvana.
Okay.
I never got to see Nirvana, and obviously never will get to see Nirvana.
I didn't see them either.
Yeah, and they were one that, like, I was in college and had opportunities to see them, because when I was in college is when they broke.
Yeah.
They got huge.
Yeah, and I would think I was in middle school, high school, somewhere. Yeah,
well, but no, yeah,
we've already established you're 10 years older.
10-year gap, but like there was a couple times where they had come through and just for whatever reason couldn't go. Yeah. Like I was at Baylor, they would say, "Oh, they're playing in Dallas tonight with blah 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 blah." Shoot, can't see them. Like Nirvana, the other kind of from that era that I haven't seen, Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh yeah, I don't think
never seen them.
Wait, maybe I saw them.
Yeah, I've never seen them.
That's funny. Yeah, I think it is one of those. It really comes down to how much capacity or bandwidth do you have to go see shows at that point in your life.
And the answer is and also too, like for me, and you're a little different because of the age difference. There was no internet.
Yeah,
I wasn't able to like Google when Smashing Pumpkins was coming through.
Do you even remember how we found out shows were coming around?
I do.
How'd you find out?
So if you remember, do you remember? And they still have it, The Observer.
Oh yeah.
So in The Observer, I used to go get it every week.
Newspaper, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the back, they had all the venues and what bands were coming. I totally
used The Observer. Yes.
And so, like, unless you lived in the town, though, and unless you had a friend, unless you had a friend of a friend tell you, "Hey, man, blah 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 is coming to town this Friday. Can you go?"
Yeah.
You had no idea.
Well, and that's just it. Like I think about nowadays, you have bands in town. You know, the
everything.
App, or whatever,
you can follow your band.
You can literally follow your band.
Yes.
You know, Spotify's now listing concerts. So that's actually where I find out about most of them nowadays. If you miss them now, it's just because you're not paying attention. But back in the day, you had to work to go, I want to see this band. How do I find out when they're coming into town?
Well, and you had to go like physically get tickets.
Or you could call and maybe they mail them, or did you have to go physically buy them all?
There used to be a record. So there used to be a record store when I lived in St. Louis, and then in Dallas, you used to have to I remember going to like Dillard's, because they had Ticketmaster inside Dillard's.
Yeah, now Ticketmaster was a physical thing. Like you went to a location. Yeah.
I have distinct memories of seeing Van Halen on the OU812 tour.
Okay,
so this is '88. And being 16 years old and having to beg my mom to let me go wait in line at like 3 a.m. so I could be at the front of the line to get good seats for Van Halen. That's and now you're online. You know, oh cool, tickets just went on sale.
Yeah, you almost take for granted the number of shows that you could possibly go see. You're like, nah.
You could go every night.
Yeah, you actually could. Yeah.
Like you could go every night.
And you and I are both the same way. Where you use Apple, I use Spotify. Like, there are probably
Same
500 bands I follow to a degree, right?
100%.
Where I might be able to make the argument, I would see that band if it was convenient or easy. But now it is like, no, with especially 2 little kids and my wife, I'm like trying not to.
Well, you're in a different life point.
I'm not trying to leave her all the time and to go to a metal concert, you know. So like, I really have to find a band that you got to choose your shots. You do, yeah.
I'm in a little different, and I went through that.
Okay.
Where I had that, where it was like, okay, I got 4 shots a year. Kind of thing, or 5 shots or whatever.
That's really what I'm at. But once a quarter, I think I can get away with it.
And now I'm like, if it's a good show, I go.
Okay.
But I'm also, I've crossed across the area of I don't want to go to shows where I can't sit. Yeah. I don't want to go to shows that I think are going to get out too late.
Well, honestly, the Knock Loose show that shows up starts at 6. I'm like, that's a great start time. I'll be in bed by 10 o'clock. You know.
Well, and like the flip side of that is whenever we saw him in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
We were on our feet the entire time.
Yeah.
I think there was about 800 bands on that bill.
Yeah.
There was like 7.
Yeah.
Or 5. Something like that.
5, and we only wanted to see 2 of the.
Yeah, because Kubla Khan, Texas was on there, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
But my consumption of a concert is much different now. Like back in the day, I would have stayed standing until my legs fell off.
Yeah, or in the pit.
Or in the pit.
Yeah.
Well, I would have definitely been in the pit.
But that's what the beauty of a Tool now is. Like, you go and you're like, oh, they want us to sit. They don't even have a pit. They put seats in the pit.
As Edgar, who we've referenced in this podcast before, we call those old man shows.
Yeah.
So we love old man shows.
Of course.
Like if you go to House of Blues, they have the upper deck where there's seats.
Yeah.
I always try to get the seats. Go to Bomb Factory. Like I saw Slayer at Bomb Factory with Edgar. We made sure to get seats. I think whenever we were buying tickets for Knocked Loose, I think the joke between me, you, and Jared, who also went with us, and his buddy Cole, was, hey, I'm only going if I can get seats.
Yeah.
Like, that's just where we are.
As long as we're all in agreement. Yeah,
as long as we're all in agreement. Because I used to do the club thing and be down in the pit and just shred it. I don't have that. That doesn't exist in my body.
See,
anymore.
I was always pit adjacent. I was never really.
I was always.
So when I was probably at the peak of like I might maybe get in a pit. Yeah. I was also like a college soccer player, so I had this.
You didn't want to get hurt.
I had this huge fear of somebody's going to sucker punch me or break my leg
tear your
or
ACL.
Tear my ACL. So I'm like, I'll just hang around the pit.
Yeah, I did not have that concern, so I was in there.
Well, but you look at some of the pits nowadays, and there's a whole no karate in the pit, mentality. But like you look at, I've seen videos on because we follow, Instagram guys on metal, and it's like guys are throwing elbows and karate kicks and you're like, what are you doing? You're a psychopath that has found a pathway to go punch somebody in the face and then get away with it. Like, relax, bro.
And actually, like pit etiquette dictates like don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that I really like about bands like Knocked Loose and about bands like Kublai Khan, about like Alpha Wolf and those guys. They are very aware of, like, Alpha Wolf is a great example. They stopped playing
they did.
because they thought somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, I think that's one of those misconceptions about heavy metal. If you're
100%.
outside it, it's like really nice people, really chill people. People don't want to hurt anybody. Nobody's evil. I mean, there's probably some weirdos that are, but like people are not evil.
Right.
But like,
well, it also depends on the band you go see, right?
Okay.
Because we're seeing like metalcore and hardcore. And but I'm sure if you went to like a death metal show, like you might pull a darker.
Yeah, there's a different element. Crowd. Yeah. There might be a different crowd.
We'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. So, all right, so who else did you miss? Like, I think I mentioned Rage.
Original Alice in Chains.
Original Alice in Chains. Okay.
I've seen Alice in Chains with their new singer, William Duvall.
I think I've seen
him multiple times.
Okay.
Never got to see him with Lane.
I didn't get to see him with Lane.
And that would have been
Wait, so killer. No, have I seen Alice in Chains? I don't know. I saw Corrosion of Conformity. Yeah. But have I? I don't know. Actually, I have a core memory of whether or not I've seen Alice in Chains.
So I got to see one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it was probably right around 2010. Was Mastodon, Alice in Chains, and Deftones.
Whoa. Okay.
And actually, I have that listed backwards because Mastodon was the opener, then Deftones, then Alice in Chains. And this was when William Duvall was a singer for Alice in Chains, who's not Lane Staley, obviously.
Yeah.
And they've now put out a couple albums, which are great, but it's not Lane.
Yeah.
And Jerry Cantrell can sing a lot like Lane Staley. Like they harmonize so well.
Does Jerry Cantrell do the Lane parts now?
He does a lot of them.
Okay.
Well, and it's interesting, and this will dovetail into some other stuff, but I just went and saw Jerry Cantrell, I think last year, and he had Greg Puciato singing the Lane parts.
Okay. I could see that.
He was killing them.
Yeah.
Like, and it's interesting to watch that because you're like, I mean, like Wood, which is a great song, Alice in Chains, right? Lane Staley, that voice, and it's haunting and the whole thing. Puciato pulled it all off. And I'm like, this is the same dude who's Dillinger. Yeah. This is the same dude who does solo stuff, and now he's with Better Lovers.
Well, I was going to say, he's a guy that, because he's in bands that aren't like big household names, his talent probably doesn't always get his
and he's like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Like, I mean, he's literally a Swiss Army knife whenever it comes to that kind of stuff. So Alice in Chains is one of those bands where I'm like, I had an opportunity to see Alice in Chains open up for Van Halen, oddly enough. And like, would have been like 91, 92.
Okay.
And just, it was one of those like, oh, it's a Wednesday and, I think I had class the next day.
Well, you probably don't think about it at that time too. Like, oh, maybe this might be the last time. I mean, so that
that's another good.
So I think next episode, we're maybe going to cover Better to Burn Out or Fade Away and the bands, the folks that have died, and so we won't cover that today, but you don't know when your last opportunity to see a band was. And so a band that you mentioned earlier that I realized I haven't seen is Deftones. which is crazy because
you didn't go to that show with me.
No, I had a Deftones Screaming Kitty shirt. We were talking about bands that change sound, like in metal.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I've told this story before, but I remember in my room, I was probably 12 at the time. Mm-hmm. Remember boom boxes, right?
Oh, yeah.
So boom boxes that had dual cassette tape where you could record off a cassette tape.
Yeah.
But I recorded off the radio. Yep. So 97.1 The Eagle. What was that gal's name?
Go to. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
Cindy
something.
Like Cindy Skull or something like that.
Cindy Skull. Yeah.
Something like that.
So I'm sitting there. I heard a snippet of the song a few hours prior.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you don't hear back in the days of the radio, if you didn't hear them say the name of the song before, they might forget to say it afterwards. Right. And you're like, what was that song? There was no Shazam. I couldn't Google it. Right. So I'm like, I know the sound. I need to hear that song again. Yes. So I sit in my room for 2 hours waiting for this song to come on. Yeah. And then I'm like, maybe this is the band they're talking about. And she goes, all right, the next song that's coming on is a new band called Deftones. You get a lot of requests for that. The song is called Bored. And I'm like, I think that's it. And I'd go, boom. And I literally hit record and it was the song.
Oh,
and
so good.
You know, when you have a certain moment of your life, and I think we go through the adolescence where music certainly impacts us in a different way.
Yeah.
That song blew my mind, and Deftones was like, you just have this overreaction as a kid to like, that is the best song I've ever heard in the world.
Of course.
So that is a band that
pattern my life after this song.
I know, yeah. My whole personality has changed.
Well, they have like Engine Number 9, which is great. Yeah. 7 Words, which is great.
Dude, that first album, and it was raw too before they were popular, so they didn't have a huge budget. You know, I look at that album and go, whew, that album really changed a lot.
And that kind of goes into like kind of the new metal conversation.
Yeah.
Because
so all right, so didn't see Deftones.
Yeah.
But we were going to cover this as a subject.
Yes.
Is new metal, Jeff?
100%.
Okay, I agree.
100%. Even, I mean, like for example, like you talk about, so if you want to hit on like let's just talk about like the top new metal guys, which Deftones are a part of.
Yeah, but they almost say we're not a part of it. Yeah, we're like, we're not new metal.
And they would totally say that.
But you were when
you were part of that movement, right? But then because it kind of had a little rap element to it. But they definitely, of all the new metal bands, kind of had a little heavier. And Chino was a much better singer than any other. Like he was a better singer than Fred Durst,
Jonathan Davis,
all that stuff. But like Korn and Limp Bizkit and Deftones kind of drove that movement in the mid-90s. Yeah. And like I remember buying the first Limp Bizkit album, which was like I think it was called $3 Bill Y'all.
Yeah.
Had Counterfeit on it.
Faith.
No, that was the next album.
That was the next album.
But it had a song on it.
You're a fag.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to that. That's metal.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, it has hip hop.
Yeah.
And they had a DJ because DJ Lethal, who was with House of Pain.
Lethal.
He was with House of Pain.
I didn't.
He was House of Pain's DJ.
How did I not know that? Or maybe I knew that.
And he became Limp Bizkit's DJ, right? And I remember seeing Limp Bizkit on Ozfest, and it was really super fun. Yeah. I remember seeing Korn. We've talked about opening.
Well, and Wes Borland is an amazing guitarist.
Filthy.
Filthy, right? But so I think why Limp Bizkit was derided is because Fred Durst is kind of goofy.
He was a corny guy.
He's a corny guy. The lyrics
Nookie
were that when we were going to go into like best lyrics, I was going to bring up Nookie as worst lyrics. But like Fred Durst, for everything he is, he's still a showman. He's still a great frontman. He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
Lyrically, he doesn't write the deepest lyrics that anybody's ever written.
It's party music.
But it's like party metal, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, whereas like Korn, their lyrics, Jonathan Davis would go down a very dark hole.
Well, so if you ever listen to the song Daddy.
Oh, it's uncomfortable.
It's dark. I was listening to that in preparation for this podcast a couple of days ago, and I'm reading the lyrics. I'm like, I don't even think I knew the lyrics.
Well, they have the one song, and I'll go ahead and say it because it's in the context.
Yeah.
And that's all about people calling him that as a child.
Yeah.
Because he was kind of an outcast and a misfit.
Yeah.
And the lyrics of it, yes, he uses a word that's very derogatory now. Yeah. But in the context of the song, he's like, this is what I lived.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, no. So that album is dark. And I think that is one of those things, and I think we could talk about this a little bit more, like the explosion on the scene of a band, their first album.
Yeah.
They have their whole life to write that album, right? So it is everything they've experienced up to that point.
Yeah.
So that was all the darkness, all the pain. It sounds like there was, abuse, sexual abuse or something in his past.
Lots of bad
things.
And
you're like, oh my God, how did this guy make it through it? He channeled it through music. And then you look at Korn, as sort of establishing a new sound, establishing even a new subgenre of metal, which we're talking about right now. That exploded on the scene, similar to the way I felt about Deftones when Chutes and Ladders came out. I go,
ridiculous.
Dude, what is
bagpipes?
How do they make their bass so heavy?
Bagpipes?
Yeah, and bagpipes.
If you can incorporate bagpipes into a metal song, you have nothing but my ultimate respect.
So, honest answer though, do you fast forward bagpipes, or do you go?
No, I absolutely.
You listen. Okay,
I am one of.
When
those
I was
guys,
a teenager, I was like bagpipes. Come on, get me to the.
And the fact that he's just reciting nursery rhymes in that song, it's all nursery rhymes.
Yeah,
every lyric is a nursery rhyme.
But the way that it's done is in a way that's like sort of dark and just eerie, and then you even think about those lyrics. And
that first Korn album, front to back, and then I think the next album was Life is Peachy, and it opens with that whole thing, that twist,
yeah.
And like the fact that you can put out a song where you don't say a word, and it's so groovy. And then they
well, Life is Peachy's when they blew up.
And
we were talking about this earlier.
A great video too.
When it's like, was it a genre? Is it really metal? Yes. They also made metal accessible to a new generation of people, but they made it popular to so much that metal was the most popular genre of music in the 90s. Or like for a period of time, they were at the peak of MTV hits.
It was really funny to watch MTV in the late 90s because they would play NSYNC and they'd play Korn and they played Eminem.
Yeah.
And they were three very distinct lanes, but they were very, like, people were in, like, you could still watch because you wanted to see the Korn video.
Yeah.
So you'd suffer through an NSYNC video or Eminem or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, back when you couldn't just go onto YouTube and watch music. Yeah.
So it's and then what was really cool, like, as a kid that, for me personally, that loves hip hop. I still do. I still listen to rap music. Not quite as much as metal, but they're very on par with each other. And I can remember, like, when Anthrax and Public Enemy did Bring the Noise in the early 90s, I owned the Public Enemy album that had Bring the Noise on it originally, Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. So to see Anthrax do it, and for Scott Ian, who was a guitarist for Anthrax, to actually rap one of the verses. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is freaking awesome. Well, I hope other bands do this. And then 3 years later, here comes Limp Bizkit and Korn.
One Family Values tour, which brought Ice Cube along. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, how did you make that crossover? Well, that was really cool moment in time. Now, I will agree. And let's see if you agree, because you said your wife earlier is a glam hair metal.
She was more in that lane.
Okay. So, even though we've established it is a metal genre, and we've both agreed it's metal, was it also a novelty kind of as you look back and go, yeah, that was a moment in time, but 100%. It doesn't have staying power. Right? Agreed. Yeah. And that's where I fit in. Yeah,
it doesn't have hold. I mean,
with outside the exceptions we've just mentioned, I don't go back and listen to Coal Chamber or Linkin Park is my
Linkin Park is a great example. Metal-ish, metal adjacent. Yeah. Chester Bennington's voice is great. Mike Shinoda does the rap stuff, which is great. But they were also really wanting to incorporate a pop sound. And to me, any genre that you look at, and I don't care if it's hard rock, I don't care if it's heavy metal, I don't care what it is. Glam metal is a great example where, as you get into next generations, it becomes bastardized. Like, grunge is the quintessential example. Yeah. You start with Nirvana and you end with Creed. Creed was considered grunge.
Well, and Creed, by the way, in that moment in time, Creed was massive, like, awesome. Yeah.
And awesome.
And now you look back, I still like a couple songs from Creed. But they are like them and Nickelback are the most made fun of bands in this era.
Corny and laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah. Oh, Rich is, you know what? Yeah.
Like laughing all the way to the bank. But they started out as like Creed specifically. I always use that analogy of the Nirvana to Creed because it gets bastardized down. Yeah. And that happens in every genre, and even like nu metal. Like, they bastardized themselves because Fred goes from like Counterfeit and Fake. Now he's doing Faith by George Michael because he knows that's how I make money.
Yeah. And then Nookie which is just insanely stupid lyrics. You know,
they're idiotic.
But that was like, that probably peaked at, I don't know how long was number one Huge. Song.
Rollin' off that same album.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard where they strip away the rock part of Rollin', and it's just like him, like the lyrics are so horrible. It's like, it basically is like if you take off all the distortion and noise, it is the stupidest song you've ever heard. But one of those,
it's greatness.
We haven't touched, and I didn't think about until the moment. And how are we on battery life? Are we good? Okay. So Incubus.
Grab a beer quick.
Yeah, grab a beer, and I'll ask you about Incubus. Incubus is a band, as we talk about metal adjacent, that came up in the era of nu metal.
Yes.
That came up with turntables and all that sound.
And Brandon's voice is silky smooth.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
And then, like he was that crossover band where your girlfriend would listen to him, where my wife loves Incubus, right? But Incubus, their first album, that Science with an acronym, was so good. Really rocky, really
Pardon Me is one of my favorite songs even now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a great song.
And it's got the hip hop thing to it.
That album actually is as phenomenal.
It's a great album.
But they were metal adjacent. They were able to ride the wave of nu metal, but carve out a sound that was more palatable enough to the masses. Yes. But they're also one that I think really peaked and then just freaking crap. I mean, when's the last time you listened to a new Incubus song?
So it's funny you say that. A few years ago, they put out an album. I think there are bands that take. Okay, this is just my opinion.
Yeah,
hot sports opinion.
Ooh.
There are bands that take themselves entirely too seriously.
Yeah.
And then they become like almost caricatures of themselves.
Yeah.
Incubus was one of those bands. I think they got huge. They had the good-looking frontman.
Yeah, Brandon Boyd. Yeah.
I saw them on a Lollapalooza. It was a later Lollapalooza. They were like a mid-bill band. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, I mean, the whole talk about Incubus was, yeah, they're cool, but everybody loved the singer.
Yeah, and all the girls love him.
Yeah. And I remember seeing him on Lollapalooza, and his move early on was to take the shirt off, right? And all the girls would go crazy and all this stuff. But then he wanted to be thought of as an artist, so he would come out and almost do like an Eddie Vedder thing.
Okay.
Kind of like in a shell and like just looking down.
It's all about the music,
singing,
man.
And then it's all about the music. And then they came out with that one album that had like the really funky title. It was like, like Crows in the Half Watch of the
was it
of
Crows
the Morning Isle
in the Left of Murder?
It's like
it's gonna bother
but you know
me
what I'm talking about. And it was like and at that point it was kind of almost like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
Like we get it, you're an artist.
Yeah.
Nobody's begrudging you that, but you're starting to take yourself a little too
That's
serious.
what the whole adage, like, some people just need to be sort of punched in the mouth, right? There's a point, and it's not saying I want the guy to be
derogatory,
but like
kind of shake
you
somebody.
You never got told no, or you never got told that wasn't good, and you just kept believing in your own brand and not believing that your S don't stink, right? And then it's like, oh, now you suffer because nobody ever told you suck or that album sucked, right?
or just like, and that's where I think Korn got it right. Like they went, this is who we are.
Yeah.
We're going to experiment. We're going to kind of pop around like they do the dubstep album and they do. Yeah. But like if a new Korn song comes out tomorrow, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they've kind of like, there's a formula, right?
There's a formula.
Like for example, AC/DC is a great example.
Yeah.
They do one song and it's really good. They've done it over 20 albums.
Yeah.
Hatebreed.
Oh, yeah.
They have one
Great
song,
example, yeah.
and it is fantastic, and I love it on every album.
Yeah, yeah.
Korn has a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Where they know the deep bass, the 7-string guitars, drop the bottom out in the middle. And now they've peppered it. They've made it unique enough, but they know who they are. And I love bands that are like
that. That is a function of when you create a sound that is so distinct.
Agreed.
You're stuck in that lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Korn can't change their sound now.
No.
People would go, well, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, you're not Korn anymore. But because you were so dependent upon their sound, and let's be honest, they're not the greatest songwriters in the world. No. So the sound is what hooked people in. So if you take that away, Korn is not really Korn anymore.
And it's Jonathan Davis, and it's the Adidas tracksuits, and it's the whole vibe of them. But like they have figured out what works for them. And I think when bands start having identity crisis, I think Incubus had one. I think Limp Bizkit definitely had one.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were like, okay, what are we?
Yeah.
And it's like, just go. Like, I think Limp Bizkit it's funny. I think they just played at Lollapalooza, I think last year, and had this huge crowd come out and see them, right? Because it's all millennials and 30-something, 40-something, that all they have is a good association memories with those old Limp Bizkit songs.
Yeah.
And they put out a new album, the Dad thing or whatever, right?
Yeah, I listened
Fred's
to it.
coming out and being corny and all this stuff.
What, did he dress like a cop or something?
He's dressed like a cop. He's just like a country artist. He's just like all these crazy things. But I think they've been around kind of, I think they went away and they've now been like, this is just who we are.
Yeah.
Let's just go be cheeseballs.
Embrace it and go make $500,000 a show or whatever the number is.
I think Tool falls in that bucket.
Yeah, but Tool is the interesting thing, and I was going to bring them up a moment ago, is like you go from Opiate to Fear Inoculum. They're still Tool.
Yes.
But they've evolved in their sound enough that it's interesting enough every album. 10,000 Days and Fear Inoculum are way different albums.
10,000 Days is
Lateralis is a way different album than Inema, right? So like there's enough differential while still holding to the core that their fans will still follow along, but give them the ability to flex their muscles and be creative and change the sound a little bit.
And the only problem for Tool is they're such perfectionists that they can only put out an album like once a decade.
Yeah.
But they're meticulous in what they do. But when they release something, it's freaking brilliant.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Like you listen to it and you're like, I cannot believe that it's the band that did Opiate, that goes to Inema, that goes to Lateralis, that goes to 10,000 Days, that goes to Fear Inoculum.
Yeah.
All different, but all Tool.
All Tool. Yeah. Well, so, hey, you want to do a little intermission? I kind of got to pee.
I'm in for
You're
that.
cool with that?
Yep.
And then we'll do the battery check and then we'll come back.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, hey, we're coming back, guys. We just got to go take a little
We need a
bladder
second.
break. Yeah. All right.
So if you notice my eyes, I'm like, go ahead.
You're like, I'm a handsome son of a bitch.
Like, look at those handsome fellas.
Stop looking at yourself, Jeff. Come on.
All right.
All right, we're good to go. All right. We'll pick it up from there.
And we're back.
We're back.
So we've been talking about all these bands. We've been talking about these bands we love. We've been talking about all the genre, whatever.
Yeah.
Now we need to talk about lyrics.
Okay.
Specifically, favorite lyrics.
Yeah. Well, so
I had to write them down.
You had to write them down.
So,
I had them written down and they disappeared, but I'll still be able to reference the song. So the one that's easiest to reference is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, metal lyric of all time.
Okay.
Let Freedom Ring with a Shotgun Blast by Machine Head Davidian.
Yes.
That, for whatever reason, obviously being a teenager, it's kind of silly. It's a juxtaposition of freedom of America.
Yes.
We like guns, shotgun, it's just like, and then the fact that like they hit the boom and then and he does it a cappella.
Yes.
And then boom, doo doo doo.
Yes. Heavy.
And I remember Davidian was one of my favorite songs when I was in high school as well. So, Let Freedom Ring with a Shotgun Blast. Not a substantive lyric.
Yes.
But one of my favorite metal lyrics.
I will say, as a caveat to your story, a footnote, or whatever you want to call it, I saw them live a couple years ago. They open with Davidian. Yeah. And when that lyric hits, the whole place came up.
Did they go like silent and then everybody yells
and
it?
everybody went bananas.
Yeah.
So
it's a great metal lyric.
I dug into some lyrics and I've got to hit on a couple of them because they're greatness. My favorite lyric in any song I've ever listened to, Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica.
Okay.
It's heavy. It's just got a grind to it. It's on Injustice
Is there a
for
certain
All.
line or
There's a line in it that says, drink up, shoot in, let the beatings begin. Distributor of pain, your loss becomes my gain. To me, I don't know what it is about that lyric. Yeah. Just the fact that it's so just got like that, like teeth to it, and within the context of the song where you're just like, oh, we're talking about something different now.
Yeah.
Like we've crossed over from like, I'm having like daddy issues or mommy issues or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm just delivering pain. Like I'm just delivering pain. And the song's called Harvester of Sorrow.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that's like I think it's like the 5th or 6th song on that album. It's not, I mean, it's the same album has one. Mm-hmm. Like people will probably listen to one and go, oh, that's good. The whole album across is great. That particular song, that particular lyric.
I think, we always listen to metal after we leave here. I think Harvester of Sorrow might be the song because you referenced it a couple times now.
I think I actually texted you before we saw them and said, if they play this, I'm going to have an aneurysm. And they did.
And you did.
And they did.
Yeah.
So, do you have another?
Yeah. So the two others that I wrote down, I can't recite them now, but the opening to Omerta by Lamb of God, where he's like basically reciting, this is the rule of honor, that whole passage. But I was actually, in preparation for this, I was looking up the lyric genius on Lamb of God for Omerta. And it's like Whoa, I didn't even realize that ultimately was like Judas and Jesus and selling him out for 30 pieces of silver. Yep. I'm like, wow. Yep. And that's the one thing I forget about Randy Blythe. He's very educated. He's very well read. Very well read. Yep. Like those lyrics are not just, hey, I'm throwing in a bunch of like dark and painful and mysterious things. No, I'm telling a story from like his history and lyrics, and obviously Lamb of God has these sort of association with biblical stuff anyways. Yes. And I'm like, Omerta is a deep freaking song.
Heavy. And kind of adjacent to that is, so we were talking about, Iron Maiden. Mm-hmm. Iron Maiden has a lot of songs that do that too. And the song Number of the Beast has this big intro to it. And it's basically a Bible verse. And it's from Revelations, and it's him talking about it's the verse referencing the number of the beast. Yeah. And then the song kicks in, and as I told you, as we've talked about, Bruce Dickinson was a history teacher.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And so when he gets into Maiden, he starts doing all of these like Flight of Icarus, and he starts doing Hallowed Be Thy Name, which is literally a guy being taken to the gallows to be hung. Mm-hmm. And the song starts out, it's got this great long intro. Like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Number of the Beast has this great long intro, and Lamb of God's Omerta follows in that vein.
You think maybe that is an homage?
I think if it's not, it at least had to be a massive influence on what Lamb of God has done, because Maiden, that's kind of their thing. And when you see them do Number of the Beast live, or you see them do Hallowed Be Thy Name, or you see them do these songs, the entire crowd. I mean, it's like Omerta. Mm-hmm. When you go see them live and they start playing that, everybody says it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know it word for
when
word.
It starts going, I can remember it. Like in this moment, I cannot recite it, which I had it written down.
Such is the rule of honor. And then
if I live, I will kill you. If I die, you are forgiven. You know, like I can remember it in pieces. Yeah. But it is cool. And what I love about that too is like, that is one of those things that sort of establishes, if they just went right into Omerta, it'd still be an amazing song.
Yes.
They put that on there, that makes it iconic.
Well, it makes it, and it also gives it all the context.
Yeah.
Right? As you're listening to the song, because every lyric then references back to that. And that's what makes it awesome. Now, I will say, as great as those songs are, I also like silly lyrics. Uh-huh. And the king of silly lyrics is Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die Now, Mini Eyes. Yeah. And this lyric makes me laugh every time. And it's a heavy song. It's called Werewolf. Okay. It's off of The Big Dirty, which is an older Every Time I Die album. And he has a lyric in the song where he goes, I didn't put my hair in a ponytail for nothing. So if I'm going home alone, I ain't going at all. There's something about that lyric that's just so silly and campy. And I guarantee you, if I didn't lyric genius it, I wouldn't know the lyric. You hear him in the song say, I didn't put my hair in a ponytail for nothing. But I never realized that at the end of it, he goes, so if I'm going home alone, I ain't going at all. Yeah. It's just corny and silly and campy. Yeah. And it's so Every Time I Die. Within the context of this crazy heavy song. Yeah. And that's what I like.
Well, that is one of the beauties of metal, is that it can span everything from dramatic to horrifying to funny to silly and campy.
And to
scary. Yeah. To immensely emotional, which is interesting when that dynamic is introduced. That was actually, of the 3 songs that I prepared or like thought of lyrics for, the other one was, we mentioned Boundaries, I think maybe off camera before. They have a song called Is Survived By. Super heavy song sonically. Yeah. Then if you actually read the lyrics, the whole premise is, this notion of like you read an obituary and so is survived by. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the end of the song, after all the riffage and the crushing, it's like it talks about, going to somebody's house and then seeing an accident a couple blocks away, and did those people get a chance, did they know it was their last day, did it get a chance to say goodbye? Then it starts going into this notion of is survived by, like who carries your name on after you die. Heavy. You start thinking about yourself, like you're like, oh my God, it hit me in the feels.
Heavy.
But as fathers, right, you start thinking about, well, if my obituary was read today, is survived by, wife and kids, and you're like, those people are your pathway towards remembrance. Yes. And once those people start talking about you, then nobody does. Right?
Well, and that kind of goes into some of the Knocked Loose lyrics. Yeah. Which
we can literally sit here and read the entire booklet of Tear in the Fabric.
Well, I mean, Tear in the Fabric is crazy, but the song Everything Is Quiet Now. Yeah. One of the lyrics in it, and it was like, and it says, I was visited by death again. Yeah. And then it says upon loss, and then it dots, and then it's like everything is quiet now. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, because that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
Like when it's over, it's over.
It's over. It's over.
Yeah. And I know, obviously, as you dig into like Knocked Loose lyrics, you see, the guy's screaming his head off, and it's bone crushing heavy, and you can't understand half the words. But if you start digging in, whether it's Boundaries, whether it's Knocked Loose, they deal with some a lot of things about loss, and a lot of things about remembrance, and a lot of things, and those, to me, those are the lyrics that just they knock you between the eyes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you're just like you said earlier, like where you're like, if something happens to me, what's the legacy? Is survival.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is actually, honestly, the lyrics, when you suggested I should look into the lyrics of Tear in the Fabric, that is when I got over my little bit of aversion to his voice. And I go, man, there's substance here. And I don't do that a ton. There are plenty of albums where I read the lyrics and I go, this is horrifying. This is terrible, right? You read any Cannibal Corpse song lyrics, and you're like, I can't believe I didn't want to read this. I wish I hadn't read this.
Well, it's all about the vibe.
I'm not sure I won't even want to listen to this song anymore. You know, so like you can go both directions, but there is every once in a while you get this culmination or the coalescence, if you will, of heavy song, great lyrics. Then it just takes it from both of those two things on their own can be good. Put them together, you have a dynamite piece of music.
Yeah, and I think metal. Pop songs, country songs, they're kind of known for point A, point B, point C. They always tell a story. People get all in their feels, right? Like you hear a Tim McGraw, just like you were dying, and you can be driving down the road wiping tears out of your eyes.
Take the girl. I know that song. Yeah.
They're designed to be tearjerkers. There are tearjerker metal songs that you don't realize are tearjerker. Like in one of the other songs that I reference, like there's a song by Hatebreed called Defeatist.
Okay. I think I know that one.
It's bone crushingly heavy. And when you listen to the song, he makes a comment. He's like, you hate yourself and you hate your life and you hate this and you hate that and you hate this and you hate that. And then he gets to the end and he goes, my promise to myself, I'll never be my own defeatist. And it's like, and he's literally like, you can do all these things. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But in the context of that song, if you weren't paying attention, you'd just be like, oh, heavy riff, great voice.
Well, the beauty
but the message is great.
Well, the beauty of Hatebreed is they're actually a straight edge kind of
super uplifting guys.
They're like Tony Robbins if they did metal, in the fact that they're very inspirational.
Very much so.
Get your life in order, take back control. So. Be the best you can be. And it's
To the Threshold.
But they're called Hatebreed. It's a funny juxtaposition.
The song To the Threshold has got so many great, I have that on every workout playlist if I'm running, if I'm lifting, if I'm whatever I'm doing, because he's literally you got to go to the edge every time.
Yeah.
Every time. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Let's go. And let's come back.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's
Please,
come back.
God, let me come back. It's funny when you start getting into some of these lyrics and we've just hit on, Let Freedom Ring with a Shotgun Blast, or the lyrics in Is Survived by Boundaries, or a funny one, an Every Time I Die lyric where he's, putting his hair in a ponytail. He's talking about going out and it's just silly.
Yeah.
Or Harvester of Sorrow, all these songs. But you can find songs that kind of fit whatever mood you're in metal. Everything from I'm super pissed and let's go to I'm super happy, let's go.
Yeah.
And people kind of, I think, overlook that whenever they think, because they just think metal is
yeah.
And it's no, and that goes back to what we've been talking about. Is there's all these different, whatever you need out of metal you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got to find it.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
And then, so speaking of that, so we've been talking genres.
Yeah.
Genres of metal.
Yeah.
What are your favorites?
Yeah. Okay.
What are the ones that you could maybe not necessarily take a hard pass on, but kind of
overlook?
There's
a few that I take a super hard pass on. And so John, and I have a difficulty of explaining which genres of metal I really like, because metal is so infamous for its subgenres, right? And we understand the crossover of genres and the blend of genres. So it's it's metal or it's not, but what element of metal, there's an infinite number of combinations. So, I would say, I know you don't like prog, which is why we named it Pints and Prog. So progressive metal, but more progressive death metal, or progressive, progressive technical death. I don't even know what.
Well, so before you even go into this, Rivers of Nile.
Rivers of Nile is
what
progressive.
are they defined as?
I would say they're progressive, but even progressive technical death metal, right? So that's where you like, how many different caveats do I need? Okay. But they are progressive in the way that they structure their songs.
Very much so.
Adding saxophone in here and doing all this crazy awesome stuff. But I don't do a ton of progressive because progressive is like you. I know what you dislike about it is we're such amazing musicians. Let me show you on every song.
Yes.
And they're like, you forgot to write a good song. You know, like that is where I think they, it gets a little too campy and cheesy.
Yes.
Like Haken is a great example. I know you don't like those.
I gave him a go. Yeah.
Those guys are amazing songwriters. And there's some songs they've written, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But there's also like, they're so campy and cheesy and adding keyboards and like, dude, I can't get into it.
Yes.
So the genres that I cannot get into, number one is black metal.
Okay. All right.
I know you're going to say something else. Thrash is too. Black metal, and I know we've said this before, black metal has nothing to do with race.
We all agree.
Black metal is just that like screeching vocals, horrifying sounds.
Terrifying lyrics.
Let's make it as off-putting as possible.
Terrifying lyrics.
And then like 7 people like it, and then that's your street cred, right? And you're from Scandinavia too, right?
You have to be a Euro.
You have to be, and why I can't get into it. So like, I think Zeal and Ardor is the closest I can get to black metal. I love which in the what is that?
But he's a complete juxtaposition. Of
because it's like that whole like kind of get into race, the slave song combination,
black metal and spiritual songs.
Yeah, and spiritual songs, right? Yeah. So like that, they're a weird kind of adjacent one,
and they can skirt some weird stuff.
Dimmu Borgir and
not for me.
Cradle of Filth,
not for
and what's a current black metal band?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I can't even name them because I so dislike.
Because I don't think because Cannibal Corpse and things like that. That's just death metal.
That's death metal.
That's not black metal.
After the Burial is a great example of somebody who will incorporate the screeching sound of black metal vocals in pockets.
Yeah.
Lamb of God actually does it too. That really high register vocal.
They do.
But the where they're playing a guitar so fast that it creates a wall of sound that doesn't really have a riff.
That's a great
because it's almost like its goal is to make you uncomfortable and unsettled.
Yep.
Have you ever listened to those bands that are like so avant-garde and it's like it is literally an hour of noise and the whole purpose is to make you just uncomfortable. That's where black metal fits for me, right? So that is my number one. So I'll let you go first, and then I won't pick on Thrash too hard after this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's all right because I'm going to pick on Pints and Prog. Yeah. So I am not a prog metal guy.
Yeah.
Like I cannot. Like it's funny because like Maiden kind of falls a little proggy just because they have long form songs. That's kind of what I view it a little bit more proggy. But like I've tried like Rivers of Nile is a great example. Love the musicianship. They're lights out. But
it's the death metal. They have death metal vocals.
Yes, but I can't. I am very much a traditionalist whenever it comes to. I like guitars, bass, and drums.
Okay.
And give me a guy or a girl like Dying Wish. They have a girl singer. So shout out to the chick singers who can rip it. I just like straightforward metal. I don't get too into getting too off the beaten path. So like that's why I love thrash.
Yeah.
Because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, here we go.
See, that's the interesting thing because Tool is absolutely progressive metal.
But I dig them.
Yeah, and they'll write 14-minute songs.
Yes, and there are except like Mastodon.
Yeah,
they kind of early were defined as more proggy.
Yeah, and Rush is a great example.
Rush is a great example.
Old school
I mean,
prog
they're
now.
obviously like the godfathers of.
And
prog.
I would even say Zeppelin's proggy, right? But they're prog rock, you know.
But it's as you get kind of into the like, I think, in my opinion, sometimes prog metal bands try so hard to be different.
Yeah, that's fair.
That it like and I'll say it like the Rivers of Nile. Yeah. You send me the one song and you're like, dude, it has saxophone in it. I'm just warning you. And so I'm just warning. I was driving and I was like, you know what, this is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
To really give this like a good effort. And I start listening to it and the saxophone kicks in and I'm like, I can't. I just can't. I mean, I want to.
I appreciate you tried.
I tried multiple times.
But they're one of the bands, and you may have to try 10 times. That's one of those things like I didn't quite get into them But every once in a while, there's a band where some reason that sound digs into your psyche.
Yes.
And you hum it or you think about it and you go, what's that band again? Oh, yeah. And then you get into it. Like it might take you, I mean, Rivers of Nihil took me like 6 months before I came back to it. And then I think I told you on a previous podcast, I was like mowing the lawn. And every day I'd listen to Where Owls Know My Name from back to front like twice. And I'm like, okay, this is my jam. But I get it. And I totally get what progressive, like Tesseract is a great band. They have an album called Altered State, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
It is so prog though.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, then you'll never get into it.
And it's I know there's something for everybody in metal.
Yeah.
Right. And of course I was raised in the genre of in the era of like thrash.
Yeah.
So thrash for me, not only do I love it, but it has a nostalgia factor for me. Mm-hmm. Like Anthrax and the big four, Anthrax, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth.
Yeah.
I love those bands, but it's very straightforward. Now, like we've talked about this before, like some of the older metal, like I love Judas Priest.
Yeah, I don't.
That powers you down as soon as he starts screaming.
Yeah. Rob Halford, as soon as he hits that,
he's not your guy.
No, it's not like Bruce Dickinson is also not my guy.
Not your guy, because he does a little bit more of the operatic kind of, and I think
it's the pace of thrash though. I don't like the speed. I need slower.
You want tempo changes.
I want tempo change. I like when thrash fans will slow the tempo down.
Yes.
The only time you'll get me to hear a thrash album is if the band slows it down at some point in the song.
And it's funny. That's one thing I've picked up on whenever I share songs with you. And I'm sure you kind of have the same. Like you sent me the thing yesterday. It was
Yersin.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome, right?
Dig it.
Yeah.
Right. But lots of tempo changes.
Yeah.
It
has to have tempo changes. Yeah.
And for me, I like, and that's why, like, even Knocked Loose, even in a 3-minute song, can tempo change.
They don't even.
They can go fast. They can go slow. They can rip it. They can this, and so that fits you, and it fits me. It kind of crosses our lines.
Well, that's what the other day I sent you guys that Thy Art Is Murder song from the album. It's like a crossover album, Depression Sessions. And,
I love that.
And
song.
It starts off slow, then it goes into thrash, and then it goes into like deathcore. Yes. And I was really surprised because I'm like, guys, this is a great song. I don't think you're gonna like it. And everybody responded. Like Jared and Cole were like, this is awesome.
I dig it.
And I'm like, I think because it incorporated a lot of the elements that we all love. Yeah, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
So that is an example when there's a period of thrash in that song. I'm like, it works.
Yes.
If you give me 45 minutes of thrash, it does not work for me.
I'm out.
I can't do it.
I love that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I love that. Like
I'm like, give me a break at some point.
I think it's something to do, and I also think like, for me personally, I don't know. I think there's something with like DNA and wiring. I just like songs that are all gas, no breaks.
Yeah.
Like I was never like let's really slow this down, like really get melodic. No, just, like let's just go.
Well, that's how I remember. So when I did put on my Spotify Wrapped, and the first song, the most listened to song of 2023 was New Gods by Thy Art Is Murder. I played it for you.
Yep.
Played it for some other people.
Yep.
I had a guy go, hey man, this isn't really the stuff, like I couldn't see myself doing this to a spreadsheet. And I'm like, I actually used to do heavy metal spreadsheeting. And he goes, yeah, but I listened to your song New Gods, and he's like, all my numbers just like shook and blew up off the page, like off the tab. I'm like, fair enough, maybe that song, but that you talk about all gas no brakes, it is literally
and that I like
for 3.5 minutes,
and that I like.
I can't get enough of that.
Yeah. And that I like. So speaking of that, current band, like, what are you currently digging?
Okay. So obviously Thy Art. So that's that my 2023 Spotify.
They're like your dudes.
3 of the 5 songs are obviously
they're your guys.
But Sleep Token, which is where you and I cross over.
We haven't even talked. We've gone this entire time without talking about Sleep Token.
Yeah. So, but they are an interesting band in the fact that you talk about a crossover appeal. I posted
very
that.
Much so.
Song number 4 out of my top 5 was Aqua Regia.
Oh, love it.
Which is a great song. My kids actually dug it, so that's why my wife dug it, and so I bring that up to say, there is something in Sleep Token that is like actually anybody can kind of dig it.
Same album, Aqua Regia. Then they have the song Vor.
Yeah, is that the really heavy song?
Really heavy song.
That almost jarred me because I they had the summoning and granite or whatever, and then that, and I go, I don't even know if it wasn't even super heavy, but in the context of everything else they put out.
They have the song on there which I like. This might hurt my metal cred, but there's that song, and it's the abbreviation. It's like, "Do you think that you love me?" and it's like DYLMT.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it is the most emo-y, like I should put on black eyeliner and sit in my room and stare at a wall and dye my hair black.
Yeah.
Like it's the most, but I dig that song.
Yeah. But I think that's okay, man. That's the funny thing is like when you start getting into the purity of metal and you go,
and I don't buy into any
is this
of that,
metal? Is this not cool? I went through that phase in high school, and I get it. The purity spiraling of what's metal and what's not. Sleep Token just has a sound there's something.
And you're
different.
the one you bought into you bought stock early.
I did. Well, because they had this. They were releasing singles before they ever really were a band, and there was a couple of songs I'm like, dude, they got something different.
Well, that guy's voice is haunting.
Well, it's a haunting voice, but it's a beautiful voice.
Well, it's emo, but with like a poppy sensibility. Yeah. But then whenever they want to drop the bottom out,
but the first time I heard a song, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then like 2 minutes in comes the boo, boo. You're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And I think they followed that formula now a lot, obviously. Yeah. But they're one of those bands, there's a polarizing effect because they've created this sort of new sound and they've incorporated R&B and hip hop and the sultry kind of sexy metal and whatever you want to.
There was a name for it on that one Instagram thing, which I'm not going to call it.
We're not going to say here, but
we're just going to call it emo metal.
Yeah, emo metal. But they're a great band. So I'm listening to them. I'm listening to Die Art Is Murder. We haven't really covered this subject, and hopefully we have time to go to it. But there's the bands you missed, and I don't want to go into that yet. But like, tell me what you're listening to.
No, so the biggest things I'm listening to. I got to grab my list just to make sure I don't miss anything. So the two, obviously Sleep Token, and we've hit on Alpha Wolf and all that stuff. But the real for me as a Every Time I Die fan.
Okay.
Obviously, there's been a splinter.
Yeah.
And there's two bands that have come out of that.
Yeah, so why don't you just really briefly describe? I'm sure people know.
Yeah, so you have Every Time I Die, Keith Buckley, Jordan Buckley brothers. They obviously butt heads.
Split.
Done.
Okay.
Every
Time I Die is done.
Who is my like
your all-time
top
favorite band.
Three favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
They splinter out.
Okay.
The guitarist starts a band called Better Lovers, which I think is an awful band name, but that's okay. Their singer is Greg Puciato, who we've talked about earlier, who was Dillinger, who was this. Their sound is much more Dillinger-y than it is Every Time I Die. I like them because I like the riffing and I like that it's crazy and all this stuff. But Keith Buckley, the singer, started a band called Many Eyes. They have 2 songs out, and I cannot get enough of them.
So Many Eyes over...
I think Many
Better
Eyes
Lovers?
In a big way.
Okay.
Because Keith's voice is great.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they've kind of retained the Every Time I Die sensibility.
Okay.
Whereas the Better Lovers sound has gone more Dillinger-y.
Okay.
And while Dillinger was a great band, it's one I can listen to about 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah, they're just so extreme, dude. Yeah.
It's so it's the mathcore
It's the
thing.
mathcore, yeah.
And
talk about a genre I can't get into is mathcore, man.
I really like Dillinger.
Yeah.
Like they have great songs, great. It's very frenetic, but you have to be in a very specific mood to listen to that. Whereas Many Eyes, they have 2 songs out. One's called Mystic Chord, one is called Revelations. I can't get enough of either one.
Okay.
Like they are literally like a drug to me right now. That actually, oddly enough, you talk about the Apple list and the Spotify list and all this stuff, and your top song, top things. Revelations by Many Eyes is like in my top 5, and it just came out 2 months ago.
No, so you must have been putting that.
I've been
repeat,
pounding that thing. Yeah, because his voice is so great, Keith's voice, and that is definitely one of those bands that I'm like, yeah, give me an album.
Well, they're gonna put out an album.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
So that's what So we were. I don't want to skip over to the next subject, and we'll probably wrap here in a minute. But Despised Icon, which is a band I just introduced.
Who I don't even. I didn't even know who they were.
They're heavy, dude, and that's unfortunately I'm in this kind of vein right now, which is like because most of the time I listen to metal because I go to the gym. I'm at the gym 6 days a week, like you are, an hour a day, 6 days a week. I want metal in my head all 6 hours, right? So it's all metal all the time, and so what's happening is there's a sort of like this lurching towards heavier and heavier.
Yeah, of course.
So that's where Thy Art comes in. That's where Fit for an Autopsy came in last year. That's where Meshuggah comes in.
Yeah.
So Despised Icon is, I'm looking for that next band that fits in that ilk. The other band, I think, I looked up it a moment ago. What was it? Unprocessed.
See, I don't even know who they are.
Okay, so I sent you the other day, or maybe yesterday, they did a song with Polyphia or Polyphia.
Oh, yeah.
Unprocessed is the metal version of cool Polyphia, Polyphia. I don't know how you say it. They do things with a guitar.
Crazy.
I can't figure out how the guy does it. And I don't love the band so much, but there's a sound, there's a guitar thing they're doing. Well, and that guy's
that guy's absurd.
Yeah. The fact that those two found each other, because I used to describe them as the Polyphia of metal.
Yeah.
Now they're doing this week. They released a freaking song together. I'm like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sort of navigating in this. You're
surfing.
I'm searching for the next thing because I went Fit for Autopsy last year, or Fit for an Autopsy. Thy Art is Murder in 2023. I don't know if I have the next band for 2024. Yeah.
So. And this will dovetail back into bands you missed the first time around that you now dig. So there's a band, and it's funny, like, and I'm sure Spotify does the same thing Apple does, where they'll be like, here's your favorite genre, and here's this, and here's that. And one of the things that they did, like last year, if you remember when we did the podcast, and I think it was earlier this year, I was like a huge Sasquatch guy.
Yeah.
And like I was in like the top 100 listeners of Sasquatch. So I think there was probably 105 listeners.
Yeah, and you were in top 100. Yeah.
So this year, it comes out on Apple Music, and it's like, okay, here's the 2 bands that you're in the top 100 in. So apparently I did it again, and it was Throwdown and Dozer.
I saw your Dozer. I think you sent me that.
I love
You sent me Dozer. And I'm like, I didn't get it. You love Dozer.
I love Dozer. And so Dozer is one of those bands. It's funny. I discovered Dozer. It was in 2017. Apple Music pulls up this album, but the album was from like 2009. And it's just a great, straightforward rock album. Yeah. I mean, they have a little bit of the like desert rock Caius thing to them, but just a great album. So I was like, oh, well, this band, they're obviously done. I'm just listening to old stuff. Out of nowhere, like manna from heaven, they release an album this year.
Yeah, 2020. You sent me that album, and I actually like it.
And it's called like Mutation something or other. Yeah. It's 6 songs. All of their songs, back to the prog thing, they can get a little proggy. Their songs are like 6 to 8 minutes. Love them.
Yeah.
But they were a band that like, I not even necessarily missed them the first time. I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, that's just, sometimes it's not like you missed them intentionally. You're like, yeah, I could take it or leave it. You know, like, I had no idea you were a thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and I would have listened to if I knew.
And back to the conversation about bands that you missed the first time around that now you dig.
Yeah, let's go into that.
Like, so Dozer is one.
Okay.
And I didn't even know they existed. Another band is Throwdown. I'm in their top 100 listeners.
Are you too?
Because you know I'm cool like that.
Yeah.
And I completely understand why they didn't get big. And here's why. They sound so much like Pantera. That everybody was probably like they're the next gen Pantera.
Yeah, you're trying so hard.
And they sound a little bit like Godsmack.
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
So like the top song I listened to this entire year was a song from Throwdown called Godspeed.
Okay.
And it's kind of it sounds very Godsmacky.
Yeah.
But it's heavy as hell. I'll have to send it to you. I don't even think I've sent it to you.
Godspeed. I don't think that doesn't ring a bell.
It's a good workout song.
Yeah, that's what I need.
It's heavy. It's fun. It's not. I mean, it's very verse chorus verse.
Yeah,
like it's very straightforward, but it's greatness. But and then I'll let you get to yours.
Yeah.
But there's one other band.
Okay.
That is the most ridiculous. They're called Whores.
I don't even know if I know that band.
They have one album. Came out in 2016. Okay. I just discovered it this year. I love that band. Now, the band name is terrible.
Well, that's what I say. I don't even know if I could admit if I like the band.
The band name is absolutely atrocious.
Okay.
But their songs are just sludgy and messy.
Yeah, you like sludge and doom.
I love messy. I like big riffs. Like if somebody wants to write a riff for an entire song, I'm in.
You're all for it. Yeah.
Like the Polyphias of the world and those bands that go all over the neck. And I, as a guitar player, I can absolutely appreciate that stuff. But when a band just does 3-chord progressions and we're off and running, I love it. And that's what Whores is.
Okay.
Now, every time I have that on my phone, I don't want anybody to see that that's on my phone because that's a terrible band name. And obviously they've broken up because they haven't put out anything in 7 years, but they're greatness.
Okay.
So
all right,
what are yours?
So some we've referenced before. Lamb of God, I missed. So I don't know why I missed them. I should have liked them because I was into Sepultura, I was into Machine Head. Lamb of God should have been a natural, like, oh, let's go listen to that now.
I know why.
I don't know why.
I know why I missed them.
Why'd you miss them?
Band name. Growing up as a church kid,
did you think it was like
I figured it was going to be full blown like Satan is in the music. So that's why but then once I discovered them, then no.
Yeah, and then you realize even they were Burn the Priest, which I told you this week.
That Burn
I'm
the
like,
Priest
how did I not listen to Burn the Priest? I didn't even know they existed.
Yes.
Honestly, I did not know they existed until I went all the way back.
Yeah.
So, but they were Burn the Priest, and they didn't want to seem like they were a Satanist band, right? So they changed it to Lamb of God.
So they changed it to something way better.
Yeah, well, Lamb of God, which is not, I guess it's better, but so I missed them. And I missed the band I've been talking about a lot. I missed Die Hard as Murder. And so I think what happened...
So when did Die Hard as Murder show up? Do you know?
Dude, those guys have been around for... I mean, I'll look them up right now. Those guys have been around 15-ish years. What? I mean, dude, yeah. They have... I don't know how many albums.
I had no idea.
Hold on a second. I'll tell you when their first album came out. And their first album is one of those, like, it is, like, straight up death metal. It is insane.
Yeah.
Their first album was in, 2009. So that's 14 years ago.
14 years.
Yeah.
So
but I say I miss them because they peak sort of in the mid-teens of, and then they just released an album this year. Yeah. Something about the lead singer, and they kicked out the lead singer. I don't know the whole story.
Oh, was that the okay?
He said something that was because of the woke era. He said something, and I'm sure there was more to it, but they kicked him out. Anyways. But I knew of them. It was kind of the same thing as like the band Suicide Silence, really heavy in that deathcore vein that I wasn't quite into at the time that was peaking. Then I came back to it and I go, whoa, like, I can't believe I missed these guys, and now they're my favorite band. And it's funny how that, I mean, I'm 41 years old. The fact that I've continually seeking out heavier music is really sort of not the norm.
I'm 10 years ahead of you, and I'm still doing that.
Yeah. So I'm almost pushing
not
going
to stop.
I had a guy that pushed me that direction. I'm kind of, I think, pushing you a little bit that direction.
Oh, you are definitely pushing me. I would say, like,
who did you miss? Yeah.
My taste got heavier. As I got older, and now there's like we've kind of reached this inflection point where it's even getting heavier.
It is
because of guys like you and like Jared and Cole and they like other guys that we hang out with. And Edgar has his, like, he likes all the proggy stuff, so he's kind of, but it's fun to have friends that listen to this stuff. Yeah. Because they're going to enter, like, Knock Loose. I mean, that's like my, like, you're welcome.
Yeah. No, I cannot thank you enough for that.
And like, Die Hard is Murder, I have a feeling the next podcast we do, I'm going to be like, thank you.
I get it now. Yeah. I get it now.
Because I'm teetering on, like, damn,
it's one of, and we talked about this. I think we've talked about this before. It's like, once you break through, you have to break through.
Once you pierce the veil.
Once you're like, I can't stand this, to like, okay. Yes. And I don't know if as we get older, maybe our hearing goes a little bit. I don't know what it is. Yeah. And then it's a similar thing where it's like, once you get into extreme music, you naturally seek more extreme music.
You only want to get extremer?
Yeah.
More extreme?
Yeah. More extremer? Yeah. But the funny thing is, and so maybe we'll end on this. We got a few minutes left. Like, non-metal that you like, or bands that are metal adjacent that aren't metal but that still tickle your fancy. Like, I was thinking about my top 5.
Well, Sleep Token.
Sleep Token's a great one. Yeah. Funny enough, in my top 5 is Ben Howard, which is a super acoustic, kind of folky, great singer-songwriter. Writes, we talk about lyrics, incredible lyrics. Is the softest, loving. My wife and I can listen to it. Yeah. And I every once in a while, I need a palate cleanse. I'm like,
it's a great way of putting it.
And then cleanse the palate and just like settle down for a minute.
Yeah. So like if we're going outside metal, I'm always looking for like good rock music.
Rock, just straight up rock.
Yeah. So like,
what's an example?
I got Gary Clark Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
I love Gary Clark Jr. Okay. He's a bluesy guy. I love the blues. So that's my palate cleanser. Like when I want
blues is where you go.
Yeah, when I want to get out of the metal thing, like hip hop, sure, like that kind of runs concurrent with metal. But then like I go to the blues route, and that kind of cleanses it kind of washes away. I'm like,
yeah, you need to take a breath every once in a while.
Every now and again, because it does become where you're like, okay, I'm listening to like I laughed on my Apple Music thing. It was like, the genre you always come back to is metal. Yeah, and I was like, of course it is.
Well, then so DJ X, the AI Spotify DJ guy, which just showed up and is crazy. I don't even want to know if I want to talk about this. He's like, your number one genre of the year is deathcore. And he's like, this dude is like a hip hop. Your number one album is Spencer. It's deathcore. And I'm like, I'm a little bit of a weirdo. And I'll accept that.
And we talked about it a little bit before we started this pod, and we might want to finish here. Yeah. So my son, who's 19.
Yes, please talk about this.
Is taking a class. He's at San Diego State. Go Aztecs. History of heavy metal. And he's never been a metal kid.
I can't believe this is a class.
He only took it because of his dad. Like he was like, well, my dad listens to this kind of music. So exactly. So we've been driving around, we were driving around in San Diego. I went out there for Parents Weekend because I'm an old guy and I have kids in college. And he and I are talking, and it was the funniest conversation to have with a kid who's never listened to metal.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, there's a Spotify playlist that our teacher puts together. And his teacher's in a band. He says his teacher has hair like down to his shoulders. He's like a metalhead.
Yeah.
And so it's been really funny to look at metal through new eyes.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I've been listening to like Metallica, like For Whom the Bell Tolls, and Slayer and Pantera, and like he's like, and then he's having us listen to black metal and death metal and Swedish death metal.
Yeah, some of the bands on that playlist
I didn't even know.
Heavy
and crazy heavy, and some of them I don't even recognize. And I was just like, it makes me so happy as a parent, and secondarily as a metal parent, to be like, all right, he might get it.
When you said his final is to go to a concert and write about it.
Go to a metal show and write about it.
That's so
I'm
cool.
like, so what we need to figure out is a way to talk to that school and somehow be like, what are the professors that get to like visit? Adjunct. Yeah. We need to figure out a way where we can go out there and talk about our love of metal.
Nathaniel, do you want to go to San Diego and do a podcast? Yeah, I figured you'd be down. Okay.
But it's been very cool to listen to him talk about it. He's like, Dad, I was listening to this one song. He's like, it's a song by Megadeth. He's like, Peace Sells? I was like, oh, heck yeah. And he's like, that thing's really political.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, and it goes back to kind of, that kind of sums up what we've been talking about. It's like all genres, all lyrics, like whatever you want to find.
It's the 6 degrees of heavy metal. It's
6
just
degrees of heavy metal.
Yeah, it's funny. And I think that's freaking cool. The fact that your son is taking a college class on heavy metal. And it's not just, the generic bands. It's like, if you were to list the playlist, there are bands that you and I haven't heard of. That we assume they're death metal, whatever. I don't know what. Yeah. The fact that that's a class, and the fact that his like final is go to a concert and write about it. And beyond that is he's never listened to metal before. No. Now he's
only secondarily.
He's getting an introduction.
Yes.
What I think will probably happen is now he's going to become a fan.
I'm hoping.
You've opened up Pandora's box.
I'm hoping.
Now you and he are going to bond over.
If that happens, I will be the happiest dad in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Metal-aged men, baby.
Metal-aged men, that's what we do.
Well, so my kids are 6 and 3, so I have a little bit longer before I get that. Although I think the only song that I played that they really like is The Pot by Tool.
Which is a great song.
And then every once in a while, I always tease them because it's Kids Bop right now. And I'm like, hey, if you guys don't be quiet, Dad's going to put on heavy metal. And they're like, no, please don't put it on. And so I'll put it on every once in a while to punish them. I put on ridiculous songs, and they're like, okay, we'll be quiet. And then I go back to Kids Bop. Right?
What I do, I have a daughter who is 15. And the joke is we'll listen to songs in the car, and it's all over the place. It's everything from Queen to Taylor Swift to everything. And if I really want to irk her, I'll put on a metal song. And then my move is, as the song starts to kick in and she's in the passenger seat, I'll go, and she'll be sitting in the passenger seat. And I'm like, all right, babe, here it comes. It's the chorus. I'm like, sing it with me. And I'll be singing the thing, whatever it is, like For Whom the Bell Tolls or, Master of Puppets. And she gives me a look like I've grown either horns or a second head or, a third eye. And I'm like, this is where metal comes in handy. That's the reaction you're supposed to get. That's what I'm supposed to get out of my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jeff, this is this
as always.
I wish we should do this once a week. Although I don't know if it'd be as fun if we did it every week, but it's like so much fun we do it.
But there will be more frequency in 2024.
Yeah, the hope is in 2024. If anybody's listening to this and they like it, hopefully we'll do these more often. But we talked 2 hours plus. We did.
We have a graphic now.
We have a graphic. We named the episode before we even shot it. I don't even know if it lived up to Pints and Prog, but it did. But man, this is so much fun, and
absolutely,
I appreciate you. Yep. You prod me a little bit to make sure we did this.
We'll be back soon.
All right, cheers, man.
All right, brother. Be good. Oh,
well, you get empty beer cans.
Exactly.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Bye.